All right, folks. In this video, I'm going to go ahead and show you how you use the measuring tool in Creo Parametric. Let me just go ahead and delete this son of a Budweiser here. So the measuring tool in Creo Parametric is really interesting. It has a couple of things that not a lot of people know about, and I want to alert your attention to them. Before we go any further, though, there is one thing that I'm going to ask you to change. If you go into File and then go into Options, you're going to go ahead and go to the configuration editor here. And you're going to find this following configuration. All right, let me see if I can type it in right. Measurement. I probably didn't spell that right. Let's see. Measure. There we go. In here, at least when I hit measure and then enter, the third option is called Measure Dialog Expand. I am going to suggest that you permanently change that. So I hit yes to that. And make sure you save your config.pro. I'm not going to do that because this isn't my local version of Creo, but make sure you save it, okay? And I'll show you what that does in a second. So, in order to use the measuring tool, you're going to go over into Analysis, and you're going to go ahead and hit Measure. Now, if you didn't turn that option on, this is what it looks like. Just these bare icons. I don't know about you, but this doesn't really tell me anything. However, if you turn on that config.pro setting, then it'll look like this. So all it really does, as the name implies, is it expands the dialog automatically for you, which is great because think about it. If you're taking 5,000 measurements, you're going to have to do this 5,000 times, right? That's not really what we're here for. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at the measure tool. So the first thing that you need to be aware of is summary. Now, summary tries to kind of guess, right? Depending on what you select, it spits out a measurement. And for most folks, it actually works great. For example, let's say that I want the distance between this front chin here and this back chin or back wall. Okay, easy enough. I can click this face here and boom. Immediately right off the bat, Creo says, hey, I found the measurement for you. Even though I didn't explicitly say, give me the area, summary has that inherited trait. Okay, fine. But if I hold the control key after rotating my model and then hit the back wall, well, you can see that it says, hey, here is the distance between these two items, along with the angle, along with the area, along with the perimeter. Well, that's a lot of stuff. But the reason why I encourage you to expand this dialog is because, in my opinion, it does list a lot of important things. For example, there's references. These are the things that you used to establish this measurement. And then there's other results here. So when you start to take more measurements, Creo will try to hide certain things. But if you ever want to go back and see, for example, the area, then it's listed right here. You don't have to come over here and hit that little plus sign, right? It's kind of annoying. So I encourage you to use this as much as you can. All right. One of your best friends is going to be this guy here, which is the clear all selections. Let's go ahead and click that button there. It looks like a little eraser there. So that's summary. Now, the next one over to that is length. So length is perfect for things like harnesses, pipes, wires, and so on and so forth. So for example, let's say that I want the length of this edge right here. I can click that edge and it gives me its length right there. But if I hold the control key and pick this edge right here, it gives me the combined length. See that? Now, don't worry, not all is lost, because if you have this dialog expanded, you will see that it says, hey, this individual curve length is 3. This individual curve length is 2 point whatever. But the combined curve length is 5.9, right? So this still lists everything individually. It really is very, very nice. Okay, so that takes care of edge there. Let's go ahead and navigate over, length. Let's go ahead and navigate over to distance. All right, so this one is an interesting one. Distance, okay, what's up with that? So with distance, let's say that we want the distance between this edge here and this edge here, okay? All right, that should be easy, right? So click that edge there, hold the control key, and then click that edge there. And boom, it gives you a distance, right? Yay, how exciting, right? Well, maybe that's not what I want. Maybe I want the projected distance. What that projection is, we'll go ahead and say the coordinate system. So While these two references are still established, you can go ahead and navigate to projection here and click this little guy that says click here to add item. After doing that, you will go ahead and select the part coordinate system. If it's not showing, make sure you show your layers and show your datums, but pick the coordinate system and it gives you the delta X, delta Y, and the delta Z. So that is a very nice way of establishing projected distances. Now, you can, of course, use vectors. You can use whatever your heart desires, but I find that the coordinate system is ideal if your part is modeled with, the coordinate system in mind. Otherwise, you will have to use vectors or axes. Needless to say, there's also a little option here that says measure maximum distance. So if you want to measure the maximum distance between these two edges, of course, it'll be from this lower point to this upper point there, then they can spit that out for you. All right, let's go ahead and clear this out again. The next one over to that is angle. Angle works on the basis of measuring the angle between the vectors normal to the faces that you select. So for example, maybe I want the angle between this face here and this face here. So click that face, hold the control key, click that face, and it gives you the vector between those, the angle between those two vectors, normal to the faces. Now, if that's not what you're after, you can, of course, come over here to angle and say, well, maybe I want the supplementary angle or the conjugate or the second conjugate. Of course, what you are after totally depends on your design intent. So that is angle. Let's go ahead and clear this bad boy out. What about this guy? Diameter or diameter. Well, if you do diameter, all we have to do is select the items that we want to know the diameters of. For example, maybe I'm interested in this diameter here. If I click this arc, you can see that it says, yep, that is a diameter. It's 515 thou whatever, right? Now, what's cool about this, though, is I can hold the control key and select another piece and confirm, yes, these two are the exact same holes. And I can keep going. I can keep holding that control key. I can keep picking things and nothing is going to happen, right? It's just going to keep giving me more and more dimensions. It's not going to break is what I meant to say. So good. That is diameter. Now, what about this guy? Area. Well, area is also pretty self-explanatory. And for this one, I'm actually going to bring back my plane here. So the thing with area is if you select a face, let's say this face right here, it, of course, spits out an area. Wow, how exciting. But there's one little guy right here that says projection, right? And so this is a little bit weird. Like, what's up with that, huh? So projection allows you to take the curves themselves and project it onto a plane. It'll make a surface on that plane based on those curves. And then it will give you the projected area. So think of things like, airfoils, anything with resistance, wind resistance. This would be perfect, right? So for example, if I pick this plane right here, this right plane, it projects all of these curves onto the right plane and then makes a fill out of them or a surface, and it gives you the projected area. So as you can see here, it says projected area is 3.99845. So that's very nice. All right, let's go ahead and clear this out. And of course, I'm going to go ahead and next do volume. All right, so with volume, it gives you the volume of the entire thing, if that's what you're looking for. However, with Creo being a multi-body tool now, you can actually right-click on this and hit remove and pick a new body if you had another body in here. In this case, I don't have that. But what you can also do is you can also say, well, maybe I'm only interested in the volume up to a certain plane or up to a certain section. So if you click this guy here that says select a plane or pattern for a one-sided calculation, if I only wanted to measure the volume of half of this, I would hit the front plane, and you can see that it says I have a one-sided volume. All right, now this guy right here, the transform, I'm actually going to do a separate video on this guy, so we're going to go ahead and just skip that for now. So now that you understand how the measure command works, then you're probably wondering, well, what the hell is this guy over here for? What is this little floppy disk for? I don't know if I'm just that old or maybe I'm just training youngins nowadays, but a lot of people still seem to know what a floppy disk is. For example, let's say that we want to measure the volume of this whole entire thing. Okay, so let's switch over to volume, like that. Then what we can do is we can drop this guy down and we can say either make feature or save analysis. I'm actually going to go over save analysis in my mass properties video. So it's not going to be too much, but it'll at least show you where it goes. So we're not going to use save analysis here. We're going to say make feature. And I'll call this, volume underscore of bracket, just like that. And then hit OK. Now notice how when you rename it, it comes over here, and I totally misspelled volume right there. But there's volume of brackets in your tree. And then, of course, if you hit close, then it's just going to live there. You can add more things to this, but the volume will still be up in this point. If you want to know the volume of this thing before you made the cuts, you can drag it before the holes like so, and you will see that the volume increased. So in here it's 23 point whatever. And then, of course, when you drag it back down, it's what? I think it was like 20 or 21, right? And so, with that in mind, you now know how to use the nice measure command.